The family has a long history. The story of I Favati small family cellar started in 1915. In fact, as you know, one of our best line, the black label line, has on the label the ancient family picture of I Favati. And the small one on the label is my grandfather, Alfredo. The new generation story starts about 30 years ago. My grandfather and also the ancient part of the family leaved this heritage of vineyards to my father and my uncle. Then when daddy married mommy, Rosanna, they started to build the new generation cellar. They started to bottling wine and also to make very big investment. So the story is very long. And now me and my sister, we are the third generation of this cellar.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hi everyone, this is Beatrice welcoming you to the Italian Wine Clubhouse Ambassador's Corner, one of the top-ranked shows on Italian Wine Podcast. Here, our ambassadors get the mic to interview their favorite producer with total freedom. And if you miss it live, no worries, it's all recorded and dropped later on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today's guest host is Stephanie Johnson. Stephanie is a wine writer and wine educator based in New York City. She holds the WSET diploma in wine and spirits and is certified as an Italian wine expert by Vinitaly Academy. Her wine career spanned the journalism, retail, and restaurant sectors, including 5 years as wine director at City Winery in Soho. She joined Wine and Spirits magazine as tasting director in 2013 and later served as Italian wine editor from 2016 to 2024. A passionate educator, she teaches WSET Level 2, Level 3, and diploma courses at New York City International Wine Center. Her upcoming venture, Steep Up Jack, will spotlight the heroic stories of Italian wine producer, blending deep expertise with compelling storytelling. Today, she's gonna interview Rosanna Petrozziello and Carla Giusy Favati of I Favati. So, Stephanie, Carla, and Rosanna, how are you doing, guys?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. Stephanie, are you ready for our 3 ritual question?
I'm ready.
Perfect. How did you discover the wines of I Favati?
Well, so my first trip to Campania was in 2014. And I was, asking a number of colleagues who I should see, and someone recommended I Favati. So I saw them way back in the day. I don't even know if you remember Carla and Rosanna, more than 10 years ago. And then I visited again in 2023 when I was in the region for Campania days. I should mention, I tasted the wines when I was with Wine and Spirits magazine, and they sent samples. We always tasted blind, and they became one of our top 100 wineries a couple of years ago because their wines performed so well.
Oh, wow! That's amazing. Why did you select Rosanna and Carla as your featured guests?
Well, first of all, as always, I think their wine is really good, and that's always my first criterion. And I especially love their Greco and Fiano, but also I just was very intrigued by their family story. They've been in the region for a long time, and I always find that very interesting to hear the stories of kind of these artisanal family producers.
What are the learning objectives that we should expect from this interview?
Well, I would like people to learn more about Avellino as a growing region. Also, in particular, the Fiano and Greco grape varieties. And also just hear about some of the challenges for small family producers like I Favati.
Okay, for me it sounds like a really nice plan. So it's time for me to mute myself. Now I'm turning over the floor to you, Stephanie. Have a nice interview, girls.
Thank you. Well, hello, Rosanna and Carla.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. So What I would like to do to start is have you set the stage for our listeners. I know some of them probably have been to Campania. Maybe they have been to Avellino, but I know that some people, when they think about Campania, they think of Naples and the Amalfi Coast and the beaches and the warmth and the sunshine. And my experience in Avellino was very different in terms of the conditions there and the elevation. So I would love for you to kind of describe your area and where you're growing grapes and what are the conditions there.
Hello, Stephanie. I am Rosanna. Thank you for choosing us, not only our cellar, but also our family. And our home is your room when you want to come again to visit us. We are here together, me and my daughter, that now will introduce our reality. She speaks better than me.
No, not the same. Yes, Stephanie, you are right. A lot of people that comes to visit our parts of the south of Italy, but also when people imagine Avellino, not everybody know the real landscape and weather that we have. That is a very hard weather, but very important for the condition, the growing condition of the vineyards. Because if you imagine Campania, so the south of Italy, you immediately think about the warm island like Ischia or Capri, or the sunny beach of the Amalfi Coast like Positano, Sorrento, or the city life like the crazy Napoli. But Avellino is a very, very small town located in the middle of the region. It is in the middle between the mountains and the sea. So we are located on the hills, about 500 meters on the weather of the sea. So this particular position is hard for the growing on the grapes because especially the winter has a very, very strong condition. For example, 2 months a year, we also have snow. We have a lot of rain, for example, but the very important things to say about our position is the difference of the temperature between the day and the night, because we have a warm day, but also cold night on the hills. And this is very important to give to our wines a very good acidity, for example, and is very important also for the structure of our whites, because even if they are whites, such as Fiano di Avellino and Greco di Tufo grapes, this particular climate and soil gives to this wine and to these grapes a very, very good longevity and structure. So I think that this is the first thing important to say. The cellar is located in this small town. The name is Cesinali, that is very close to the city center of Avellino. Only 3,000 people, very, very small reality. But the majority of our vineyards are all located in the best located area of the DOCG grapes. That are Taurasi town for the Aianico, 1 hour from Avellino city center, Tripalda for the Fiano, and Santa Paolina inside the Greco di Tufo area. And this is the introduction about our position.
Well, thank you for that description. And I'm curious, how long has the family been in this area and when did you all start growing grapes and making wine?
The family has a long history in this area. The story of I Favati small family cellar started in 1915. In fact, as you know, one of our best line, the black label line, has on the label the ancient family picture of I Favati. And the small one on the label is my grandfather, Alfredo. So that picture is a very, very angeled memories. But the new generation story starts about 30 years ago. The city is always the same, Cesinali and Avellino, so in the area of Irpinia. What's changed during the year is that in the past, my grandfather and also the ancient part of the family lived this heritage of vineyards to my father and my uncle, my father Giancarlo and my uncle Pier Sabino. Then when daddy married mommy, Rosanna, they started to build the new generation cellar. So instead of only produce wine for family or only sell grapes to the majority and most important producer of the past of the region, they started to bottle wine, to go abroad, and also to make very, very big investment in this very beautiful and rich vocated area of grapes. In fact, the heritage of my grandfather was about 5 hectares of vineyards. And today, after 30 years, today we manage about 50 hectares of grapes divided between the 3 majority DOCG denomination of Irpinia, so Fiano di Avellino, Greco di Tufo, and Taurasi. So the story is very, very long. And now me and my sister, we are the 3rd generation of this cellar.
Great. So it was your father's family that started the I Favati operation. But I'm curious, Rosanna, were you always interested in working with the wine? Did your family grow grapes? How did you become interested in this kind of work?
No. Before to make wine, I worked in the bank, and I started in 1995 a course of sommelier. And there I started with my passion. And I decided with my husband and my husband brother to reimplant some vineyards and to restart to produce wine. But in the first moment, only to sell the grapes. But in effect, we never sell 1 kilo of grape.
Because I started to produce labels and go abroad. And mommy always say that the cellar is her 3rd son.
So you mentioned some of your labels, and I know you make some really beautiful Aglianico as well, but I thought today we could maybe focus on your white wines, partly because we all know that the trend worldwide is toward white wines, and there's a higher demand for white wines on the world market, and certainly in the United States. So I would love to hear, in particular, what labels you make for Greco and Fiano, and what are the differences between those?
Today we have a production that is about 150,000 bottles, but divided in 11 labels. We have a 3 line. The main line, also the best seller, also the with more awards, is the black label line. That is in the middle of the production. Then we have before the entry-level line, and in the entry-level line, that is the line Corridore, we have a Fiano label and a Ianico and a sparkling rosé wine. In the black label line, we have a Fiano di Avellino, single vineyard Pietramara, the Greco di Tufo, Terra Antica, the Irpinia Campi Taurasini, that is the DOC of the Taurasi DOCG, and the Taurasi DOCG Terzo Tratto. Then we have also a small, more important and more aged label, that is the line of the Riserva, that is the white label line. And in this line, we have 3 labels: the Fiano di Avellino Pietramara Riserva, Greco di Tufo Terra Antica Riserva, and Taurasi Terzo Tratto Riserva. And also the new entry that is a rose season, a new rosé wine from Ianico grapes. We produce also 3 sparkling wine. But the more important thing to say, the difference between these 3 lines, is that the vineyards are always the same. But we make a very, very hard work with our enologist Vincenzo Mercurio inside each vineyard. For example, the single vineyards of Fiano di Avellino Pietramara. We make 3 harvests. The first harvest is in the end of September, and is the harvest that we dedicated to the sparkling wine and the entry-level line. Then in October, we make the harvest of the Fiano di Avellino Black Label. And then in November, because one important thing to say, the first question about we talked at the beginning of the interview is the weather. On the coast, the harvest with warm temperature is in August. In Avellino, the harvest is in October and finish in November. So more high, more late maturation of the grapes. In fact, with the line of a white label Reserva, we make a late harvest in November. Similar the period to the harvest of reds, so a late harvest. And the difference between the, for example, Fiano di Avellino Black Label and Fiano di Avellino White Label Reserva is, first of all, the selection in vineyards, because the main part and the middle parts of these vineyards, that is like an amphitheater, go in the Black Label. Then we make the high part and the ancient parts of selection of the grapes the first week of November. Another thing that we make the difference is the period of vinification. For example, for the normal Fiano di Avellino, the Black Label, in general, one important thing to say about our cellar and our style is, first of all, that we make 100% of the grapes without blending, to be loyal to the land and to the real taste of the grapes. So no blends. And only another things to say is also that we go beyond the minimum period of the aging. So already with the Black Label, we make 1 year of aging, before in stainless steel tanks and then in bottle. So we present these whites already with a structure and more complexity. And the difference between Fiano di Avellino Pietramara Black Label and White Label is also inside the vinification. With the White Label, we make 3 days of slow cryo maturation to have more extraction, but without changing the color. So for this reason, the cryo maturation, because already Fiano has this gold color, also very, very intense smoky taste in the case of the late harvest. And then with the Reserva, we make over 2 years of aging before to release.
For the Greco, it's the same process.
Same process, and another little difference between the Black Label and White Label is that with the White Label, we only make it when the condition of the weather is very perfect, because even if there is a very, very good vintage for quality, but maybe the quantity is less, or if the weather is not perfect to make the late harvest, because Irpinia is also a landscape in which we have the freeze, we have snow. So if the condition of the vintage and the weather is not perfect, we don't make the Reserva and we only make the Black Label. So Reserva is a very, very special bottle that we release not every year, only few thousand bottles per year.
So in terms of the White Label, what are the years that you have not produced it in the last, let's say, decade?
Allora, we start to produce a White Label in 2007, when Vincenzo Mercurio, our enologist, came for the first year in the cellar to work with us. And we produced 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And 13. After, only for the Fiano, and 2 years, 9 and 11 for the Greco. For 14, we don't produce. 45 and 6, 7, we don't produce White Label, because we have some years bad production for Fiano and Greco, and
Good quality but less quantity.
yes, and we start again with the Vincenzo 18, Fiano and Greco, 19, 20, 21 only Fiano, 22 Fiano and Greco, 23 not released because the production of our white grapes was small, and then we don't produce the reserve. And 14 we start again.
And in terms, when we do, a lot of our listeners are probably Italian wine ambassadors, and they've gone through this VIA course, which focuses a lot on grape varieties and the differences among the grape varieties. And so I would love to hear you talk a little bit about Greco and Fiano, and what are some of the differences in the vineyard when you're trying to grow them? Like how do they respond in different conditions? Which one is maybe more challenging or needs different types of operations in the vineyard? And then in terms of the vinification, how you treat them differently?
Yes, Greco and Fiano, even if these two located areas are very close to each other, these two wines are very, very different in tasting, in color, but also in tasting. The first thing to say is the difference in altitude. Greco is more high position, and for example, Fiano, we are about 500 meters on the level of the sea, and Greco 600 meters on the level of the sea. So in this way, Greco is more challenging, especially during the period of growing the grapes, all the works that my uncle and the group of employees they make in the land, especially when they have to cut the grapes, to work with this volcanic soil, very, very hard, very, very deep vineyards. So even if they are very close, these two areas gives the wine very different. Both longevity wine, Fiano more than Greco, but another thing that is very, very different, even if Campania in general has volcanic soil, Greco and Fiano area has two different soil, because in the case of Fiano, we have a wine more floral and fruity taste. Mommy say that the Fiano is elegant and Greco is a strong wine because Fiano has calcareous and clay soil. And Greco has 100% of volcanic soil with this particular sulfurian stone that the name is Tufo stone, that gives to this wine a very, very high acidity and minerality.
The challenges working with this wine in the last 3-4 vintage is very, very difficult because typically testing of Greco is acidity and sapidity. For example, in the past we had 20 days of difference before the Fiano, after the Greco, and for last the reserve with the Aglianico. In some years together, contemporaneously. Now, in the last year, for much sun, much
the climate change.
See, in particular with Greco, have an anticipe for the harvest, to preserve the color of Greco and the acidity.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear about this. So there's a difference in terms of the harvest time between the Greco and the Fiano, but that has changed over time? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Usually we had before Greco in the end of September and the first 15 days of October. And after, with 15-20 days of difference, we had harvest of Greco. Now, sometimes it's before Greco or contemporaneously to the Fiano, the harvest of Greco.
So this means midnight to make vinification, no sleep. Also, because another thing to say that is the vineyards are all about half hour or 1 hour from the cellar. So very hard. And another important things to say that our style to preserve the quality is to still make hand-picked harvest. So we make the harvest and immediately 2-3 times during the day, we still in the small cases of grapes, we pick up and bring immediately to the cellar. So everyday work. No,
We wash
the
every
cases.
time before to go again in the vineyards for harvest.
All involved, all the family.
A lot of work.
Yes,
Wow,
but
so-
it's important to preserve the quality.
So you're having to pick these things very close together. You're going out in the vineyards and you're tasting the grapes and you're deciding what by each plot, like when you're going to pick that plot, and then you have to respond immediately and you've got your whole family. How many people are involved in this picking operation?
In general, during the harvest, we are the family and also about 20 of a seasonal employees that help us to make the harvest. And we usually start in September with the enologist and daddy and uncle and mommy to go in the different vineyards and make analysis and start to see the acidity. And then we decide. But every year is a very, very big challenge for us because for the late harvest that we usually have, even if in the last vintages are anticipated, but however, we go over November with the harvest, the middle part of November. So every year is difficult because we have to wait and risk because we can have rainy, we can have a freeze, for example. But every year is all the same story. We harvest or we risk, and always we risk.
Usually in the last of August and the first week of September, we meet Vincenzo and we make a project about the new vintage. And for the new project, we decide. We go inside the vineyards, we test and we make analysis for that project. And if change the project, change the test, the analysis for that project. Especially for this year for the red. We change a little bit the project on the red.
You want to talk about that, how you've changed that?
To move to a more soft and balanced taste, to not have too much tannin inside the taste of our Aglianico wines.
Yes.
So this change also the period of harvest and also the vinification and also the aging and hard work with oaks. So very, very long work.
Tradition and innovation together.
But this is always because, as I said before, we want to be loyal to the land. So even if the needs of the markets is changing, for example, wines with the less alcohol, with the more elegant and soft taste, but we want to be loyal to the Aglianico and to the taste of Aglianico. So however, we work with 100% of the grapes, but to reach, to have this balanced taste and this soft taste, like some years ago, New York Times said about our Campi Taurasini, that is a wine with a very, very good quality and soft taste. Also, even if it's hearty, but it's easy to drink. And the only way that we can reach this stage and this quality is to wait and make a very, very high investment on the aging. In fact, for example, we follow with our Irpinia Campi Taurasini the same aging of the Taurasi. And with the Taurasi, we make 1 year more of the minimum period. And so very, very high investment in time, in money, and
we, like says Carla before, we have Aglianico, Fiano, and Greco. Then we cannot change the wine in the bottle. We can change
the aging, the selection in vineyards,
the selection, the oak, the time of aging, the time of fermentation, the typology of cats. Only for these instruments we can make better the wine.
Yeah, it's funny. I was teaching a class last night and we were tasting Aglianico. And one of the things that we were talking about is the tannic structure of that grape. And I'm just curious how you manage that. Like, are there things that you have changed in your vinification process, not to add things to the wine or anything like that, but just in terms of the way that you manage the maceration and the extraction to give it maybe not a soft, Aglianico will never be soft,
no,
but a less
balanced.
aggressive, a less aggressive tannic profile?
We made, first of all, a very big investment in new vineyards of Aglianico in Taurasi. And one of our new projects of 2025 was to release these new labels, Aglianico Corridore, that is an Aglianico that only makes still tanks vinification without the aging in oaks. This is our new project about Aglianico, but our ancient and more important labels that are Irpinia Campi Taurasini Creta Rossa, Taurasi Terzo Tratto, and Taurasi Terzo Tratto Riserva. With this label, even if they are 100% of Aglianico grapes, we release very, very late. For example, our current vintage of Irpinia Campi Taurasini is 17. It's hard to find another producer that makes this very, very long aging for Campi Taurasini that is the same aging of the Taurasi. And we make all the aging in French oaks. We use small, medium, and big oaks. And during these 3-4 years of aging, we don't live in only one kind of oaks, but we make, for example, a first step of aging. Then we meet with Vincenzo Mercurio and we make a tasting of different parts of the vineyards. And with Mercurio, we decide how to continue the aging, making a very, very hard work with these 3 kinds of oaks.
The project is to pick the best grapes of every vineyards for the best label. And we had the possibility with the Corridore to use the rest of the other grape that don't go in the black label, the white label.
To make a more easy and wine to drink. Good also during summer.
Okay. One of the things that I would love to hear Rosanna talk about, you've been doing this now for quite some time, and I would love to hear what are some of the biggest changes that you have seen during the time, but since you started making wine at I Favati until now. And it can be anything, the way that you work in the vineyard, the technology that has become available to you, or different aspects of the trade, or even just the culture of the area where you live, if it's become more easy to make wine there or not.
The best important thing for me that I am a woman is the work of a woman in this job. When I started, there are very, very small part of cellars direct from women. And in that period, it was very, very difficult for me to speak with the men that worked in this, because they said me always, excuse me, I prefer speak with your husband, but my husband don't work in the cellar. I work in the cellar, and then you must speak with me. And this is just for to, come si dice, ridere?
To smile.
To smile. The second thing important is the commerce is very, very changed in this period, in this 30 years, because before you must go to the fair, you must travel, you must go out of your cellar to sell wine. Now with social, with internet, online selling, is very, very easy to sell wine. The last but not the less important is very, very strong work to make quality, because we don't have people that want to work in the land. And it's very, very difficult every day to have people that love this work. All the young boys, young people want to work to sit to the computer with the internet, don't work with their hands.
That's interesting. So in some ways it's become easier, but in other ways you have new challenges because there are other distractions and things, opportunities for people to take them away from the land.
In the last 10 years, and especially after the COVID, we don't have people that want to work in the cellar, in the lands with their hands. It's very, very difficult, because our lands are difficult to work with the machine. Only with the people we can cut, pick, to have harvest, to cultivate the vineyards. We don't have the possibility to use machine, and we don't have people that want to work in this job.
In fact, a lot of cellar, I think in Italy, but not only in Italy, started to make a mechanic harvest, for example. We still make the hand-picked harvest, but every year is a challenge, because it's very hard to find people out of the family that wants to make the hand harvest.
And where are you exporting most of your wine? What is the split between what you sell in Italy versus what you sell overseas? And what are your bigger markets?
Usually, for example, the 2025 is 70% overseas, and the other part inside the market. Our first market is, however, with also all the problems of tariff, but however is the USA market, our first market. We have a very big importer in California, then another one in New York, and North Carolina, and Colorado, Virginia. Virginia has a new importer from a couple of years that also invested in the promotion of our sparkling wine, and not only the bestseller labels. So step by step, we are trying to grow up. And in fact, next month we will be there to promote not only our cellar, but also our land. And then we also export another part in Japan, and then UK, Belgium, so in general Europe, and a small part also in Italy. But our big market is USA.
And I mean, we all wonder how the last year has affected. So you are saying that you have felt some impact, maybe from the tariffs, other kind of geopolitical things that are happening. Is that true?
Yes, was a very, very difficult year. Fortunately for the vintage was perfect. One of the most beautiful vintage in our region. But the situation in general was very, very difficult. Fortunately, our wines are positioned in the middle high part of the market. So even if the problems that you know is a positioning that not has too much problems. So however, fortunately we worked. Maybe we didn't make a very, very big increase, but we maintained the work, and however had a good year. So challenging, but however, good year.
In the first 6 months of last year, we worked very well with Italy and out of Italy. The last 6 months, August to December, very, very bad, especially for Italy. And
Because
now
in Italy
it's bad because we don't know
how will be.
how we will be the 2026.
So we wait, but we are sure we will go good. In USA is different, but in Italy the government made a new law for the drivers. So very, very strong law. And so some people that before drink more, going to the restaurant, now don't drink too much. So very challenging time in Italy and also just a little bit of a crisis as always. So fortunately, we work a lot with overseas market.
Important is the quality of our wine because the mentality is 3 bottles a month. No, 1, but good.
Yes. And I'm just curious, when you travel to the United States market, of course, Americans love Italian wine in general. And I think maybe you have seen that they are starting to embrace a wider range of varieties, and that native Italian varieties have become a very important part of a lot of wine programs. People are always looking for different things to put on their wine lists. I think this is certainly true in New York. But I'm curious how you find the reception for your wines, Fiano, Greco, Aglianico. Are you finding that they are better known now than in the past?
Yes, I think it's better known now, and often when we travel and when we make a dinner in a restaurant and present wine, a lot of Americans know the variety and know the area. Maybe not everybody know where it's located or the style, such as the hand-picked harvest or the 100% of the grapes. But I think that American people know very well this grape variety. But out of the world in general, I think that we have a lot to work to give more attention and to promote this variety. Because in our small reality, we make a lot of wine fair during the year and go abroad, go around the world to promote the Avellino town, the grapes. But we have a lot of way to make to increase the brand of Irpinia.
And, when I tasted your wines, particularly the last time I came to visit you in 2024, and I was really focusing a lot on Greco at that time, because I think in this country, Fiano sort of has this reputation as the more noble variety, the finer variety. And I remember tasting your Grecos and thinking, wow, this is not necessarily always the case. That the Greco can make incredibly great wines if it's done right from the right place. So I always felt like you were really one of the several producers there who are really elevating Greco in the sort of profile of that variety.
Because the Greco is more small to the Fiano areal, and then are very, very few the cellars that produce 100% Greco. When you have a blend in the production of a wine, you have a lot of difference.
And also that you're making it at both those levels. You're making the white level Reserva also for Greco, not just for Fiano.
Yes. The Reserva denomination is a new denomination because before, a few years ago, we only had Fiano di Avellino and Greco di Tufo. But we make this label and this style of aging before the born of the Riserva denomination. We produce from a long year.
In effect, we start with the Reserve in the 2007, but the denomination was made for
2 years ago.
To start with the vintage 2018.
We should probably start to wrap up here, but I wanted to ask one other question. I know you recently took on some more vineyards, so you have increased the vineyard surface for Aglianico in particular recently, but are there any other changes for you on the horizon or things that you would like to be able to do in the coming years?
The first thing is that we make this investment. Daddy decided to make this investment with mommy and uncle to try to grow up, because Irpinia is a very, very small area of growing grapes, and was an opportunity that will not come again, I think, in a lot of years in future. So we tried to make this growing step. It's very, very challenging. It's very, very full of sacrifice for all the family, for all the employees. Mommy always say, my holiday is the big oaks tanks from Bordeaux, French oaks. The third son is the new oaks area. So very, very challenging, but we are trying to grow up. But why? Remaining our philosophy, because only buying and managing new vineyards, you can try to grow up without changing the quality. So we added new labels. We didn't add a new quantity of bottles in each label. So growing up, but remaining small.
Yes, the important to have for us a lot of lands to produce a wine is to pick the best of everywhere land.
Produce single vineyard, crew.
A small part to produce a next single vineyards, because in the same area of 6, 7, 8 hectares of vineyards, we had minimum 3, 4 different lands, different grape, different wine to the final of the fermentation. And with Vincenzo, we had research continue in the lands to have a best Taurasi with Aglianico, with the time of aging, with the process of fermentation. A best small part of white label, a small part of single vineyard, of that lands, of that vineyards. It's a big project, but if we go to
the right way,
in the right way, maybe our daughters tomorrow can have a big project.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for your time. And when I run across producers like you who are really so dedicated and passionate about, really being loyal to the local varieties and trying to just make the purest expression of those varieties against all of the challenges that you have. It's a really inspiring story. So I appreciate your time and I applaud what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck. And I hope I will see you again soon.
Thank you, Stephanie. And we really hope to see you soon. When you want, our home and cellar is your home.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you from Campania for your big work for our lands and for our wine.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Rosanna and
Thank
Carla.
you.
That was super nice. And I have to say that Scott has written also in the comments, ciao, thanks for sharing your story. Love supporting I Favati in Colorado. So you're literally all over the world.
Ciao, Scott.
That was such a nice interview. And thank you so much, guys, for spending time with us. So
Thank
to wrap things up, for those who are interested to participate, just send send us a DM through our Instagram or mail our Italian Wine Podcast producers at info@italianwinepodcast.com. Thank you so much again, Stephanie, Rosanna, and Carla. That was wonderful. And this is a wrap-up from Italian Wine Podcast. Ciao, ciao a tutti!
Ciao! Ciao!
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.